Doing pretty good. How are you doing? Little echo too, by the way. I can't seem to hear you on YouTube. I've refreshed a couple of times. It might just be me though. It's still silent.
How's it now? It should
Sounds
work
good.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay,
sounds good.
perfect. What's new with you? Thank you.
Nothing too much. Doing some more FSD drives tonight. I think we're gonna go out for a movie or something and look forward to that. But Tesla stock's popping. Not sure exactly why we're up almost 4.20%, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it's hard to predict daily movements or explain why they happen. It's usually because somebody's taking a position. That's usually the case. Um, what movie are you seeing tonight?
I think Gladiator. I think that's where we're gonna go.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that too, actually. Gladiator 2. Just booked the tickets.
Yeah, we watched the first one. I know it's like 20 years later, but I look forward. I mean, probably will be the best movie of the year if 2000's any indicator. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gladiator is one of my favorite movies for sure. And I think Gladiator 2 is going to be great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So maybe we can compare notes tomorrow.
Well,
Take some
tomorrow's
notes.
Saturday. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able
Oh,
to
that's
make it
right.
Saturday.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I
yeah,
think this weekend I'll probably post some watch parties on YouTube. And
if I'm available, I'll do it. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
And
a
I
little
don't,
strange for me on the weekends.
yeah, I don't expect you to be able to join these things for sure. But it's good to have you on StreamYard. Because if you have questions, then the audience probably has questions. And then if anybody has questions, they can always submit it to Hustle Town too. Lord Code, go ahead.
Hey, Alvin, sorry I couldn't hear you before. My question is, since you're short, what is like your reason for not agreeing with Gary Black, who I think is a very reasonable kind of like bear bull? I'm sure you're familiar with his evaluation on Tesla.
Yeah, I haven't looked at his tweets in years, so I don't know what. I think it's better to ask a question like that. Do you agree with the following statement? And I don't really care where this statement comes from. So, what part of it argument are you talking about?
Yeah, so I was kind of hoping you knew better because I'm not really in finance, but like basically my understanding is no valuation on Robotaxi, no valuation on bot. He gives FSD just as like a level 2 supervised that's worth $12,000 at, I don't know, is it 5% of the fleet or whatever it is? And then he
Well,
models.
take it one by one. So, which one do you want to start with first?
So I guess his main thing is, I think 11 million vehicles at, yeah, like I don't know all his numbers, but he just thinks EV adoption is going to grow. Tesla will do 11 million vehicles, and that electric vehicles will have higher profit margins plus their software, which is part of the higher profit margin. And he gives it a price target of 300 in 6 to 12 months, which is obviously more than it is now, but
Yeah, I think my parents dropped me when I was a baby, and I hit my head pretty hard. So I have very low attention span. So you have to form your
okay.
question in 10
So
words or fewer. Start with a question word.
do you think Tesla will reach 11 million vehicles at higher than the industry average profit margin in the next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you backtrack that, like what's that valuation going to look like?
Yeah. So on YouTube, we're actually building Hustletown and we're building a discounted cash flow model.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that's right.
yeah, let me just put you on mute while I talk. Thank you. So, like for example, you mentioned early on when you started speaking that Gary Black doesn't give any value to Optimus. I don't think that's fair. I think that Tesla clearly has made some progress towards building Optimus. They've had a number of events. Elon has said this is going to be most important product for the company, and it's going to form majority of the value. I agree with all of those things. It's just that I think it's at a very early stage. The prototype isn't even out there; like it's not ready for production yet. Um, they're going to have to build some sort of a production line for it. We haven't even heard of any permits being pulled for that purpose. So I think it's a few years out, but even like for example, if you're investing in venture capital, like in a venture capital kind of mindset, just because the product is a few years out doesn't mean the company is worthless. So you have to assign some sort of a value to it. I think it's reasonable to expect that Optimus will come to market and it's going to reach some volume. You can disagree on at what production rate and when and at what margin, but and I have those things already built into the discount cash flow forecast model that I'm building on YouTube. So if anybody's interested, they can head over there and watch the videos. What I'm doing here is just half hour in Tesla Live on X on the house, because I don't expect any of these milestones to be achieved anytime soon, especially after going Tesla short and people like some of our earlier speakers like Michelle or Dallas or Alexander and others spreading misinformation about why things are happening. They have very powerful, concentrated, orchestrated efforts to spread misinformation. So I don't expect any of these likes to be achieved. Therefore, what's going to probably happen is half hour in Tesla Live, and then half hour, an hour after that on YouTube from now on. Any other questions? Learn code. You're on mute.
Sorry. No, not specific ones really, but I'm going to look into his model and I'll bring up some questions.
I think some people started supporting this space. I've always been very clear in my pinned tweet: Tesla bulls and bears are welcome. I've given a chance to speak to literally everyone who wants to speak. And a lot of our speakers at least acted that they were in line with that mission. We want to bring together the people who have opposing views. And if I'm indeed an investor, right? If I'm an investor in the company, the best thing I can wish for is somebody who's been following the company for years to argue the other side. And it's better if they put their money where their mouth is, by far. Okay? So to kind of have this attitude of canceling Patreon, canceling sponsorship, spreading misinformation about me or Tesla Live is just lame. Lame. But it's not that unexpected, honestly. Luce?
Hey, what's up, Yaman?
And it's literally 100% in agreement with what I predicted when people asked me to continue Tesla Live in 2024. Luce?
What's up, everybody? Can you hear me? Nice. So I just wanted to say my opinion regarding this, if I can, even if it's out of topic. So generally speaking, I think it's almost scares me that the narrative that goes now is that they disagree and they don't like Tesla Live anymore because of Yaman way of acting. Like Yaman way of acting never changed. So if it was really such a big point for them, they would not have joined before.
In fact, I've been nicer to people over the last 2 years. Pretty much over time, I've become nicer and nicer to everyone, especially in 2024, and increasingly so in recent months. But I've still, removed people if they're not adding value, if they're adding noise. I remove them from the speaker board in a nicer way. So the idea that they're now all of a sudden at once, on the very day I shorted Tesla, they're still doing it because of I was nice to them, whatever, is just complete BS. And really disappointing. Luce?
So yeah, to continue. So I thought that at this level, like obviously we are not market makers, okay? We have not billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would never have thought that at this level, such level of organized, cancel culture would happen. I think it would be very, very difficult. In fact, I'm thinking of like not talking anymore or anything, because how it's possible that something happens at this level? Like nobody cares. Like obviously we have opinions and we talk our opinions for our own benefit because we like the show and so on. But how it's possible? Like, do you have any clue, Yaman?
Yeah, I know. I'd rather talk about Tesla, Nvidia. Have you done some research after our talk yesterday about Nvidia?
No, I mean, Yaman, I'm still of my opinion. I know your opinion on Nvidia. I know that you think that companies will be rewarded to not buy the GPUs now, that the data might be that there might not be enough data and so on. But I don't see really I don't see anything supporting this thesis. What do you have supporting this?
Well, I think Nvidia's like sometimes management say things that they think are positive for the company, but it's really not, I don't think. Like, for example, Nvidia management has been kind of boasting that demand for their GPUs exceeds supply. They think this is a positive thing. It's not. It's a negative thing. It's a negative context, because in that context, what you have to do is adjust the current financial statements to reflect a balanced environment when you're doing an intrinsic value analysis. Just like in 2022, when Tesla cars were in high demand and people were paying double what they're paying today for a Model Y, and they were waiting more than a year for their vehicles to arrive. And Elon was selling tens of billions of dollars of stock at the top. That's exactly what's going on with Nvidia today. There are people waiting, there are companies waiting for their GPUs. They're overpaying to get in front of the line. And the same thing that happened to Tesla, when the market balances, those margins will come down and the stock will come down. So, Lucia?
Yeah, so but with Tesla, it obviously happened because of COVID. It happened for a series of reasons, and those reasons are not present with Nvidia. They just have the best products, and the others are not even close. Like I don't see like an underlying situation like it was for Tesla.
Well, Tesla has the best CVs, and the other ones aren't close. And it doesn't matter what the reason is, honestly. If the demand is temporarily above supply, your margins, prices are going to be higher. And when supply catches or demand declines, which I think both of those are likely, then your margins and prices will decline. Go ahead.
So can I ask to give some percentage of possibility percentages, like what is the chances that Nvidia is going down the next year? What is the chance is going sideways? So what is the chance is going to keep going up?
Well, the future is not certain. And I've definitely been wrong before. But I think the chances of it going lower in the next 12 months is higher than it going higher. The chance of it staying the same, I think, is pretty low. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Lucia, any other? Are you still short Tesla, or you're still all cash?
I'm all cash, but I'm planning to go short on Tesla. I'm thinking by myself that if I didn't short Tesla, I would regret it. I'm 100% convinced that it's so overvalued that if I buy puts even long with a long expiration date, okay. If I didn't do it right now, I would honestly regret it. I'm firmly convinced of that. Obviously,
James?
like, sorry, just 1 second. So obviously, I made a lot of cash, right? So if I reinvest in puts, something like 10%, even less of what I made, it's not a big deal. Okay, lose 10%, but at least I'm consciously happy with myself that I thought that I made the decision I thought it was gonna pay out.
James.
Thanks, Yaman. I hope you're doing well. I've been kind of behind the ball on your spaces lately. I know that you said you took a short position. I didn't know. Have you revealed the nature of that short position?
What do you mean by nature?
Like, did you buy puts, the volume, that kind of thing, dates?
No, I didn't. I didn't disclose just the date. I mean, when I tweeted, I showed it.
Okay, so quite possibly you being short on Tesla could mean you have a negative outlook for the short or midterm price action. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just curious as to how many of your viewers and people engaged in the community are thinking that means Yaman took puts. And I guess just speaking to you as a human, I would have concerns about that because I don't know the price action. And me as an investor, I think it's totally reasonable to think the price could drop from here. In my perspective, I would much rather sell shares and then potentially buy them at a lower price or just stay the course and then dollar cost average in. So I just didn't know if you like jumped into any of kind of what that means with your audience or if you're just using this as a way to spark debate and conversation.
I mean, we haven't gotten into, and I don't really want to get into the trading specifics of it. But I wish that people what I would really love happen is if people came up who are on the long side and debated me, I would enjoy that. And I think it would be very informative for everybody, especially those who have all in the company. But that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in discrediting me with false stories and keeping the hype train going.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I'm one of those long all-in people, but I can't honestly come up here and debate you because I think you're probably right. Like I think the price rose really, really fast. I think it's only natural for it to kind of retrace lower from here. And then depending on the financials, it could really go either way. So I think a little bit of measured skepticism right now is healthy. And I share your sentiment about people let's just debate and not throw people's character through the mud.
Yeah. Anybody's welcome to speak. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be very kind to people who are out there spreading false information. So, I mean, I'll post just someone look at some of these replies. It's crazy, and this is very typical too. Like, this is not kind of like a one-off kind of thing. I'll just post them up here. Like, how do you expect me to debate these people? It makes no sense. It would be a waste of time for me and for everybody else. And some of our speakers are out there spreading misinformation that they stopped coming because I was rude to them, or they canceled their Patreon because I was rude to them. That's obviously not true, because I was even ruder last year or even this year in previous months. I was about a lot more soup Nazi. But in the last 6 months or so, I've been a lot more kind of balanced and patient with speakers. There might be one-off, two-off situation here and there, but generally speaking, I tried very hard to give everyone a balanced speaking time, and that's based on the recommendation of ChatGPT, by the way. And so I've gotten that feedback, and I've changed. But still, people are out there spreading misinformation, trying to paint canceling their sport as if it's because of that. It's not. It's obviously not because of that. It's because of that I went short. And if they were true supporters of Tesla Live, true supporters of the idea that there should be a balanced discussion between bulls and bears, they would not have canceled their Patreon. They would have doubled it. Okay? They would not have canceled it, and they might have even doubled it. But that's not what they're after. They're after a concentrated, controlled public relations effort for Tesla and Elon Musk. And when I shorted, they don't even know how much I shorted, by the way. Right? They don't even know what my time frame is, what my reasons are. They even ask about those things. They just went ahead and in mass canceled and immediately started spreading misinformation, which is exactly what I expected. I did exactly what I expected. And now I'm getting dozens of replies in the comments below my tweets about some psychological pressure kind of thing. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, can I add some commentaries that I think that there's a really apt analogy here as to what's happening. I feel like Elon's saying you are the media now, and I think that's true. We're at this point of like citizen journalism on X, but just like what happened with the internet and streaming and cable, basically streaming came in, offered an alternative, but then what has happened is all these streaming services started to merge together and we recreated cable. And I think this is just like another cycle on that on social media. Okay, we're the media now. So now you're going to have all these people who are going to use the media to band together to start to fulfill their own monetary interests, to create influence campaigns and smear people. And what's going to happen over time is you're going to get these people that get more influence and they're just going to do what the cable networks did on an individual basis. So I think it's just funny. I think we're going to end up recreating CNN with people's large influence accounts, large number of followers, and I think this is just an indication that that's kind of where this is all headed.
Okay. Tech Greg?
Hey, Yaman. So I keep a long position in Tesla at Charles Schwab, and then I keep an account at Interactive Brokers where I trade. And I short Tesla all the time because it goes up on hype. So it's not a big deal. But when you're saying you're taking a short position, are you doing it as a trader or do you see it as like a long-term thing? Or do you stop yourself out at a certain point?
Well, I mean, I don't do like day trades, you know. Like I've never really done day trades, and except when like 20 years ago, I think that's how I started. But like it's not a day trade thing. I think it's more of a call that the price is above where the intrinsic value today is, given all the risks of future cash flows. I think across the stock market, there's a mispricing of risks when it comes to Nvidia, MicroStrategy, Tesla, and on the other hand, I've also made it clear that I think Tesla's future is bright. There are some risks. If the company can handle those risks, then it will continue to grow at a very rapid rate and become one of the most valuable companies in the world. And so I guess somewhere in the between. I don't know what term you want to say to that, but
Yeah, not necessarily day trader. I get what you're saying. But yeah, but Tesla will run up 20 points because the government announced they might make rules for full self-driving, countrywide. Well, that doesn't affect revenue for a long time. Tesla should never run up for 20 points. So that's an opportunity to short. And I think that too. But I don't fault you at all for taking a short position while still being long in a company, and why anybody would, I don't know, it just makes no sense to me.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's probably best if people follow the discounted cash flow analysis that we're building out on YouTube, and I might make it even posted on X at the same time, so simultaneous cast on X and YouTube, so people can watch it wherever they want. But so like we can dig into that, Tech Greg. So like, what do you mean by like, where do you think? Let me ask you this way. Actually, Tech Greg, do you have time?
Yeah, I can talk to you.
Okay, let me go to Luce real quick, and I'll come back to you.
All right, cool.
Yeah, really quick. Like Grant is always messaging me to let you know that he would like to speak again. Okay.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. I think people should kind of be mindful of their actions and I'm always, looking at what people tweet. Even in your replies, I'm reading your replies to other people. I pretty much have a very high resolution understanding of what every one of my listeners, every one of my speakers think about any given topic. So some people are just not worth being on the speaker board. Tesla fanatic.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, I've been following you for like 4 years now, and I mean, we had like harder times, and we had Tesla more overvalued than it currently is, and what doesn't really make sense for me is that why now that you actually turn other ways. And I mean, I try to ask what's your reasoning behind, and as far as I saw your post, you're not believing that Tesla will launch their robotaxi with their existing fleet with 2025. So I mean, is that fact is that big of a deal so that it makes you turn short? I mean, or do you have other reasons?
Well, one reason is that the stock has surged 100% in the last 5-6 months. Like that's one reason, obviously. And yeah, I don't think robotaxi opportunity is going to play out as Tesla bulls expect. I think that it will take, and I said this in the Seeking Alpha article earlier this year, right? And I've been saying it in this space for a year. And ever since I learned, I looked a little deeper into scaling laws, which Ashok has also mentioned. And I think, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, this is not my area of expertise, etc. Okay, but in my opinion, Tesla will need to spend tens of billions of dollars on training compute. So what they're building in Giga Texas, for example, what XAI is building in their data centers, you're going to need orders of magnitude more spending over the coming decade to be able to train a model to the reliable level that is needed for robotaxi service, which I believe is 99.9999%. And currently in US nationwide, I think FSD can drive about 90% of your miles. And in certain parts of the country, it can drive about 99% of your miles. So you still have to go 4 nines more, 5 nines more to have a nationwide service. And it's going to take you tens of billions of dollars spending, which Tesla doesn't have to spend today. And even if you spent it, you still need some time to scale, like to build out that data center, but also scale your data that you bring in. And not every mile is the same value in training. You need more edge cases. So for that, you need people to use FSD. And I've said many times that Tesla needs you to use FSD. So if you want to help Tesla to develop FSD, go ahead and use FSD. Subscribe to use FSD. Okay. But there's also the fact that most people don't, even in the free trials. If people were using across the nation after these free trials that were introduced earlier this year, we would have seen that FSD miles accumulated in quarterly presentations go up exponentially. That's not what's happening. And in the last report, the rate of increase is actually declined, which is exactly what I predicted in the earnings preview, which you can watch on YouTube. So there's nothing there's nothing changing about my views of the company in the longer term. It's just I think the timeline has moved up because I learned more about consumer behavior and market behavior. And in the meantime, the stock has run up 100% in the last 6 months. So, I mean, like I said, I have a space here every day at the same time, and anybody is welcome to request to speak and challenge these ideas. But what do people do? Hundreds of replies like the ones at the top of our screens. Wes Hicks.
Hey, Yaman. Hey, doesn't your view conflict with what Elon said about unsupervised coming out next year in 2 cities?
Sorry, say it again, Wes Hicks.
Yeah, you just said that you think it's going to take tens of billions of dollars, several orders of magnitude. I think you even said several years before the full self or the autonomous driving is going to work. I'm paraphrasing, but that conflicts directly with what Elon said about unsupervised services starting next year in 2 cities. So I don't.
Yeah, I
how
don't
do
think
you, how
that's
do you
going to
reconcile
happen.
that?
It's not going to happen. Elon time.
I'm sorry, did I lose you, Yaman?
I think it's going to take longer. And by the way, didn't they say some like regulatory approval needed for that?
Sure. Yeah, that's a different point, but you're right. But listen, so how is it that, like, what is it that you know that Elon doesn't?
I didn't claim that.
Well, if he's saying that it's going to come out next year and you're saying it's going to take much longer, seems like you have a different point of view on it. And I guess I'm just trying to dig into that more.
Yeah, I think he's just eternally optimistic, as he says. And as you know, the claims of FSD improving to robotaxi level has been made every year since 2016, 17, 18. And I think it's just going to be farther than he expects.
I think it's a fair point. That has been the case, but at some point that won't be. I guess the only thing, caution I'd throw out there, whether it be directly to you or anybody else, is, no one really knows when this is going to work except for the people that work there. They're the ones that can see, how close we are and how close we are not. And there's really no other measure that we could use at this point besides whatever guidance they're providing. So I'd be careful to assume it's going to take much longer. I think you took a very small short position, is what you said yesterday. So perhaps it's not that risky.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah. So second question, if I can I ask you another one?
Sure.
Is it beneficial to you to take a small short position for everything that's occurred so far? A lot of people obviously have had different reactions and different points of view as to why you would do this, but you've lost a lot of sponsors and stuff. I'm not asking if you regret it, but if your reasoning was financial to take a short position, which is I think what you implied a moment ago, it seems like that might have been not necessarily the best move overall, considering all the work that you've done over the years to create this space.
Yeah, I mean, I also said after I shorted it, and I replied to somebody and also reposted it, and I'll pin it up here if you want to learn more about what I'm trying to do here. I want to be able to analyze any given company and be right on the long side, on the short side, and the long term and the short term. Okay, and sometimes this will be. So that means if I believe Tesla price is above its intrinsic value, that means putting my money where my mouth is, taking a short position, and seeing how it works out and learn from my mistakes. I want to be a good investor. And if that means losing sponsors and followers and members and subscribers, then that's what it is.
I'll say one thing that I've heard you say over the last year or so that surprised me, but you haven't really been all in on full self-driving in the timelines that Tesla's provided for quite some time. I think you've been more optimistic about Optimus. And you've surprised me a few times, frankly, with how long you thought full self-driving would take to become autonomous. So at least you're consistent in that respect.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Luce.
So I'm generally speaking of a very similar opinion to Yaman, but I wanted to say something that it's positive on Tesla. So Elon said that it's actually a positive that not everybody is using FSD, that they run FSD on shadow mode and then compare what the human do to what the software will do. In fact, it doesn't seem like they need everybody to use FSD. Okay. Also, I wanted to say that, in my opinion, they will launch in a very small area, geofenced FSD, like they did in the We Robot presentation. It will be extremely, extremely small. But still, even these two things don't change my opinion on the fact that it's gonna be years and years before you ever gonna see $1 from FSD or Optimus.
All right. Any other comments, Joey?
Yeah, I would just say that I just think the short term, medium term call of it going down is off because of there's going to be a lot of momentum, or there's already a lot of momentum in the stock, and then the fundamentals of the deliveries for Q4, with people kind of FOMOing into buying Tesla vehicles in Q4, I think is going to be high. So I think there's just enough to keep it up for 6 to 9 months.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Tech Greg, would you like to, learn code?
Yeah. When do you think, in your opinion, Tesla will reach, say, level 4 capability?
I don't think they're gonna bother with level 4, but I think
Oh,
it's
level
going
4,
to
level
be
5.
I think it's gonna be 5 to 10 years.
Follow-up question. When do you think they'll be able to just do a cross-country drive, highway only, if they're gonna have level 5 in 5 to 10 years? Do you think it'd be fair to say like 2 to 4 years?
Without a driver or with a driver?
Just have the capability. I feel like the regulations are separate. Like, when will they be able to, at like 99, whatever the criteria is, 1,000,000 miles without a crash, whether it's gotten approved yet or not?
Are you talking about one drive like Omar doing it and
No,
then posting it? Okay.
No, at a reliable rate of no crashes for 1,000,000 miles.
And parking lot to parking lot.
Well, I was thinking, like, I feel like they could, especially with semi, if the worst case scenario, if FSD isn't ready, that like something like Pepsi, if they were, or some other company shipping across country, maybe they could do 99% of the miles. That would save them about $2,000 a trip on, just a driver, probably more, cross country, and then have the last mile done by a human. So if that
Yeah.
happens in, I don't know, just kind of a
Well,
thought
here's
experiment.
here's what I
think?
would say to you is that, for example, if you look at Waymo, how they're going about expanding, they first start in city streets and then they expand their service to highway. That's not because driving in the city is easier than the highway. That's because on the highway, you're traveling at a higher speed. And if there's a crash, then it's a lot more costly, right? In terms of human life, like the risk is much higher. So I think like the picture you're trying to paint is that, they can do 99% of the miles on the highway. I think I think that's a wrong framing. You see what I mean? So
Yeah. I do think it's different because of the fact that Tesla has so many cars, and they can first get the data with having the driver in the car. So I think they reduce that risk. And once they hit 1 million or 1.5 million, before they even go driverless, they're already going to have 100 times more miles than Waymo went when it went driverless. So I think that's a key advantage for Tesla, and is the reason Tesla could go highway first, because highway's easier and they already had the data.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I mean, even if you just look at how FSD rolled out, it didn't come to highway for like 4 years after.
Didn't they have autopilot first though? Wasn't
They
that
did,
highway
but
only?
it was a different code, right? All right. Tesla fanatic, I saw you come off mute.
Oh yeah, thanks for letting me speak. Yeah, so I'm gonna do a little debate about what you said about valuation and my FSD mileage increase. So I definitely agree that it did came up really quick, but I think it's nowhere near the FOMO level like we had before. So I mean, I respect your view on recent increase and trying to trim your exposure or whatnot, but that's just my thought. And about the mileage increasing, mileage increase, acceleration decreasing. So I mean, yeah, I did not actually take that serious as before. Now that you said it, I looked at it. Yeah, it does seems like it's not accelerating its rate of increase of the mileage. But in my opinion, having more mileage is not the bottleneck at this point. I think they are trying different approaches on they doing the they implementing the neural net, and I think it has been quick changing rapidly for the last 6 months compared to what we had changed for like a year and two. So I'm still kind of doubtful that you called it it's not gonna improve as quickly as we thought, because I think it's kind of I think we still need to see how it's gonna go for at least another 6 months. I mean, we're having yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I want to point out is that you said FSD miles is not the limiting factor. I agree. I think Tesla's collecting way more miles than they can even process with their training compute, but that's not what I meant by that graph in the quarterly letters. What I pointed out, what I used that sport, the point I used that sport for is the take rate of FSD is still pretty low, despite the fact that software is improving at a nice rate. And also, even though Tesla has introduced free trials for Tesla had FSD free trials for like the entire year at this point, and still people are not using it. People are not converting from even if the people try FSD, they're like turning it off and not subscribing. So that's a good data point to keep in mind when you're forecasting future take rates and consumer adoption, I think.
Okay, thanks for that.
Robert, and then ACDC. Can you guys hear Robert? Okay, Robert, we can't hear you. I'm going to bring you down and bring you back up. ACDC, go ahead.
Hey, Aman. Just want to congratulate you for truly becoming the value analyst that I thought you were. So just wanted to share my 2 cents on it. That's why I started following you. I started following you on X before I joined the Spaces and started supporting you on Patreon. As you know, I was participating a lot more, even as a speaker. I felt myself that balanced approach was missing. So I commend you on having that approach back and look forward to more.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Robert?
Man, you've poking the hornet's nest lately, and it's real interesting. It forces me to reconsider my thesis and question it. And I think you have a lot of interesting points. You know, in terms of how we get to FSD, you know, I've owned FSD since 2018, and back then it could barely stay in a straight line on the freeway, right? And now it's way, 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 way better. It's the speed of learning with AI that matters. The founder of Siri told me this. He said, you know, if Google is learning faster than we are, they're going to pass us eventually and eviscerate us. And they knew that Google was learning faster than Apple was 10 years ago, right? And the same thing is true here. The thing that is coming is the fleet size is catching anomalies. For instance, I was driving in Nevada at 85 miles an hour using FSD on an interstate, and a semi-trailer truck overturned right in front of me and sprayed dirt and rocks across the interstate. FSD did not handle that correctly, right? It was heading straight for the dirt and the rocks at 85 miles an hour and was not showing any signs of slowing down. I let it go pretty long. I have great new brakes from Unplugged Performance, so I know I can stop pretty quick. And so I took over, stepped on the brake, and handled it properly, went down to 5 miles an hour and drove over the rocks and the dirt. I talked to engineers at the We Robot event about this. I said, how are you going to fix this? How are you going to catch all of these weird things that happen every once in a while on our roads to make accident rates go down over time? And he said, well, you actually just helped us by stepping on the brakes and giving us the data to reevaluate that anomaly. Now we have the data of a new anomaly we have never seen before, and we can fix that over time and get rid of that anomaly. By the way, I think this is why hardware 4 is going to be important, because to handle that kind of weird anomaly, they're going to have to spin up a new neural network that's going to run in our vehicle to go, oh, truck overturning, dirt on road, something weird is going on. We're going to change how we handle the car going forward. That requires more compute to do that. Particularly in our hardware 3 car, the GPU is being run 100% almost. There's no space for a new neural network like that to kick up and solve the problem. But it's coming. We don't need to attack the whole world at one time. And in fact, Tesla has already signaled this to us. They're going to start Cybercab in 2 cities. And they're driving new kinds of cars with new kinds of LiDARs to map out parking garages and all sorts of weird situations in Palo Alto, California. A friend of mine took a picture of the Tesla car doing this. And so you're going to see Tesla approach Palo Alto and I think Austin in a very different way than they have approached other places in FSD. So long term, I'm bullish. Short term, you might be right, because I can never figure out when the top is or when the bottom is. Since owning Tesla stock in 2018, it's gone down 6 times more than 40%, right? A neighbor lost money in 2020, a year when Tesla went up 5 times. He lost money because he bought at the top of one of these peaks, and as it went down, he got scared and sold it at the near the bottom, and then it started ripping up. Right. So having a thesis matters, and you might be right on timing. I mean, Nvidia is down 4% today, right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I should point out is that part of my thesis at least, is that I think there will be a recession soon. And so I'm trying to build out a short portfolio of stocks, and Nvidia is another one of those. Luce and then ACDC.
Yeah, so I wanted to basically reply to 2 comments. So not the comments on the space, 2 comments of the speakers. So the first one, I don't even know who said it, because X is super bugged, but he said that Tesla has a big advantage on highways, okay, because they have the data and the highways are the easier one. So this is absolutely not true. Would be the opposite. If the highways were the hardest part and they were the only one with the data, then they would have an advantage. But you have to consider the fact that even Mercedes have L3 in some highways. Highways, it's the low-hanging fruit. It's not really important or as important as cities. Then I wanted to reply to Robert of the fact they are mapping the garages and so on. So basically, Tesla is going Waymo mode, and that's bullish because they are basically they are copying Waymo in some aspect. Not bullish, bro. That's all.
Okay, ACDC.
So here's what I wanted to mention, or actually speak to Robert's point, is that yes, maybe with compute and everything, we will have the capacity at one point of time to have every scenario into the model. But what I have not been able to understand, and nobody's been able to explain it to me, is how do we end up getting into regressions then? Okay, when a human learns driving, when a student driver learns one scenario, she applies that to every scenario for the rest of their life. How can we go on regressions? And I'm yet to see one build, even in the most recent one. So I thought maybe, okay, we're now end to end, so things will improve. But even with the most recent one, 12.5.6.3, I'm seeing simple regressions of toll booths, 180-degree ramps, which had been solved in my area, and they've come back. So how many of these things are there that'll continue? And I'm actually starting to doubt the methodology of how we're doing this, that we're still missing on regressions, because in my opinion, every build should keep moving upwards and not go backwards in any way.
Okay. Who wants to answer that?
It's called catastrophic forgetting. This is a problem with AI as you train it on new things, that it runs out of the space for learning about some things, and sometimes it regresses. The thing to look at is the trend line. So my FSD is way better now than a month ago. It fixes a lot of different things that used to be wrong on my road, and maybe it brought one or two new problems in. Those will get fixed over time. I don't think they're on a bad path here. I don't think we have enough data yet to prove that we're on a bad path here. This is going to take a little bit of more time. A year. I said a year to 2 years that it still needs to get to the promised land where it doesn't make mistakes. My car is making mistakes still, right? It still gets in the wrong lane to take an off ramp. Once in a while, the path planner still makes mistakes. And we need more time on this. I don't know how to attack that problem, because it's something that we would really need to talk with Ashok about, and understand why we're seeing a couple of, some regressions here and there. I don't have the inside knowledge of that point by point by point.
Okay, Hasseltan and now Luce.
For me, it'll be when they release the Cortex AI4 model. I'll have a whole lot more usage of whether or not we're seeing regression, or with each build. Obviously there is some things, but I totally agree that for the most part everything seems to be getting better, with a onesie twosie here and there that will ultimately get ironed out based on interactions, right? So there's so many different random interactions that happen on your road. Like, it's tough to really get a concrete idea if that's really a regression or if there's something blocking it.
Exactly. I mean, ACDC, I think, FSD has passed the point of every driver being able to understand what changed and if it improved by how much on a driver or car basis, per car basis. I think, let's say, for example, you're in charge. You have two softwares in hand, two variants of the software, FSD software, and one of them improves for ACDC's drives, but the other one improves the fleet performance by 1%. Which one are we going to go with? Right? So I think I think the goal is to improve on a fleet-wide basis with each software. And then that's one explanation. And the second explanation is maybe they changed something in their training method or the data they use, or they made a tweak in the software that causes a step back first. And then with further training from the fleet data, goes a 2-step forward. So that's also another possibility. Hansu?
Hey, Yaman. I just wanted to share my I met up with my friend last night. He has a new Model 3 hardware 4, and he has the latest FSD trial. And I asked him, like, are you using it? And he said he's not even using it because he's very particular I was very surprised myself, but he was very particular of how he drives, and he likes to drive the car, and so he's not even using it. So I really think the tipping point for the general public will be where you can just maybe go down from 2 cars to 1 car, have the car actually benefit you financially in a big way to make the jump.
Okay, thank you, Luce. Dan Wessex.
So I had a question for Robert, but he went back to listeners, but I will say it anyway. So a bull like Robert thinks that in 2 years FSD will reach enough, like it will be enough efficient to roll out as unsupervised. I will say 2 things to that. The first one is that on X, the official Tesla AI account said that V13 will be a 666 per improvement, okay, which is totally not enough. Also, in the past, we had very good discussion with Meta, And from what my understanding from that discussion, the capabilities of the hardware and the ability of the neural network are interconnected very closely, which means that whatever we get with hardware 4, there is not going to be a 3x improvement after that. V13 is pretty much going to use all a very good part of hardware 4 capabilities. And a 6x improvement is not enough. But if he wants to come back and speak to me what he thinks would be great, but yeah.
Okay, let's go to West 6, then ACDC, then Machine.
Yeah, just addressing one of the previous speakers' points about regression. My understanding is these models are not built on top of each other. So for example, 12.5.4, whatever, is not built on top of 12.3.6. It is using the same data, maybe not exactly the same. Perhaps they remove some bad data and add plenty more as they're building a new model, but that's the reason why you're going to see regressions as far as I see it, or at least I know.
ACDC?
I understand that point, but we're talking about some safety stuff too. So I don't care what the model's built on. There should be certain safety aspects that shouldn't just disappear. I mean, I had my car ripped through a tollway booth, which is a 15 mile per hour. It had finally learned how to go through it at 15 or 20, and it ripped through it at 45, 50 again. That's the first thing that it did on 12.3.6, and it had been solved. So I don't know. There's some stuff that I can understand that varies, but some of the critical safety stuff I don't think should. And then to my second point was to Chansu's what Chansu said, and I know you have talked a lot about FSD take rate and everything, but I talk to a lot of my friends, a lot of my neighbors who have Teslas, and I feel like I'm like the only geek here who even knows about what version it is and what software we're on. Nobody knows that. Nobody uses it really. I mean, people have it and they don't even turn it on. I personally use it maybe 20% of the time because of what Shansu's friend said, that it doesn't drive like me. It goes over potholes all the time. It accelerates hard sometimes. It brakes hard sometimes. So if you also look at where the sales have gone in terms of for Tesla overall, it's all 3 and Ys. These people are buying 3s and Ys for value. And are they going to spend $100 a month? That's probably what they end up saving from gas. So are they going to spend $100 a month just for that feature? I don't think so. So until it can actually be a robotaxi where it could be the only one car, or it could actually drive some value. You could actually sit back and do something in the time that you are in the car and be productive. I don't see the take rate going up substantially apart from the X community here.
Okay. All right. Quick word to our only sponsor. We have one sponsor left. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. Join the Paymore revolution today. Visit one of their stores near you or check them out online at paymore.com. Thank you, Paymore, for supporting Tesla Live and making technology accessible and sustainable for everyone. ACDC, I was watching a movie last night and they used Hell's Bells as a soundtrack. I was like, wow, this song is really good.
Every soundtrack is awesome.
And Machine will next tell you what movie I was watching. Machine?
I have no idea, but isn't AC/DC Australian? So maybe a Mad Max, some Mad Max movie. That's my guess.
You are spot on. You're spot on. How did you know? How did you know?
I literally just deduced from what I said. That's my guess in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, say that again? Actually, no, I can't listen to the recording. Good job. All right. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm busy. And, trading's fine. Just sticking with my index fund strategy, trading around that. Noticing I come back on Twitter and, you've lost your friends. And I would say, as soon as I came on this space, I heard real people talking about their experiences with FSD, probably for the first time. like AC/DC, making real logical points about what real people in the real world think, not techno brats whose whole life depends on their revenue from their Tesla, Elon, lovey daddy streams. And I'm like, wow, this is like real talk.
Yeah. So you said before that you were going to short Tesla if it rises above, I think you said 300 at the time. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, when it went up to like 350, what was that, 2 weeks ago, post-election, I shorted some, and then I closed it when it went down to like 310. So I only held it for like a week at most. Now I would say, looking at it again, you know, I might short it again at some point. I'm waiting though. I think there might be still another move up here. So yeah, my thoughts are, I mean, you know what my thoughts are in general, short term versus long term. But you know, I think the overall market itself is getting toward a high point of FOMO. You can look at other assets which don't really have much value inherently, and they are kind of spiraling out of control. And that's a scary sign. So I don't think it's even about Tesla specifically.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly. All right, I'll come back to you in a second. Ellie?
Yeah, so I was listening to Luce and ACDC. I'm just trying to understand. So right now the consensus here is that FSD is going nowhere, and 666% is not enough for you, Luce, and for ACDC. Like the fact that you don't see nobody using ACDC, that means that FSD is not going anywhere. And I mean, I'm not trying to trash both of you. I'm just trying to understand what you guys saying. So you said ACDC that before it will be improved by whatever percent, nobody will use it. So in your opinion, FSD will go nowhere, and just one day, like in 2 years, something will just blow up and FSD will be ready?
ACDC?
No, so you're taking everything that I said to an extreme. What I'm saying is that it's going to take a lot longer, and maybe some of the theories that we're relying on will have to be changed, and new methodologies may have to be adopted in the meantime. So I mean, I definitely see the progress, and that's why I bought it. I bought FSD. I don't even subscribe to it, and I wanted to experience it firsthand for myself. So it definitely will, but I think it's going to take a longer time than people think. And yes, Elon said that. And as much as I love Elon about everything else that he does, I think that's his nature. He's an inventor. He's going to be optimistic about everything that he does, and he's going to go at it hard and be as aggressive. But then there's the reality. Okay, so I think it's going to be there. It will be solved, but by the time it gets solved, and then by the time it gets scalable, that's a whole different picture. So that's what I'm saying.
All right, thank you. All right, Ellie, I'm going to move you down because we have other people's requests to speak. Ellie is a great supporter of the space and an awesome person. He's always there when he comes, and Hustletown is always there whenever I need them. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what's your question?
No, I was going to tap into something that somebody was saying earlier. Actually, I have a Model 3, and I think it's funny. I agree with the fact that FSD needs to be improved. And the question is, how close are you guys to having full infractions, and have you been temp banned yet? Because in mine, you know, I do pay attention, but if you're not paying extreme attention, I think it's 3 to 5 infractions, or else you get like a soft ban for 2 weeks. And then if you do it again, it's like, I mean, I don't know if it's forever, but what are your guys' thoughts on that topic?
Machine?
On should you be banned? I mean, I think anyone who creates risk on the road to injure other people should be banned from the road, and they should be sent to Guatemala.
Okay. Before you start exporting people to other countries, we have a couple more hands, but I want to, Machine, how much time do you have?
Probably not much. 5-10 minutes.
If you guys can please hold it for a second. Machine, so I have a handful of short positions now. Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir, Ford, GM, and MicroStrategy. Which one do you think I should close now?
I mean, the biggest risk of all those to go up quite a large amount in the short term, even though you may end up being right on the trade, to me is MicroStrategy. I just think Bitcoin is still possibly going up. Who knows? I'm not bullish on it, but I'm just saying, like, practically this thing could go up to 200,000 in a few months. It's totally possible. It is absolutely totally possible. If you followed Bitcoin, listen, all you disagrees, I've been paying attention to Bitcoin since 2013. I've been long twice. I 20x my money once, okay, holding this dumb asset, and wasn't that much money, but this thing could just go up 2x easily in a few months. And MicroStrategy is leveraged on top of that. So I think you may look at your account value and that position may hurt for a while. It's possible.
Okay. But here's the interesting part. MicroStrategy was worth about $100 billion yesterday before it dropped yesterday quite a bit. But pre-market was up 15% and it dropped like 16% throughout. So 30% swing in one day. And the market cap was about 100 billion, but their holdings in Bitcoin is like 30 billion. So doesn't that already assume that Bitcoin is going to go up quite a bit?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I mean, in fact, I was looking at shorting MicroStrategy for the same reasons. Obviously, its valuation is way above its Bitcoin holdings, which, you know, I don't understand.
It's three times. Three times. Yeah. Okay.
It's
so do you have
absurd.
anything to add?
I'm just saying it could go up. I'm just saying this whole nonsense could go up much further first in Bitcoin.
Okay, thanks. All right. So you're saying close MicroStrategy. Actually, I was thinking about doubling down on that. So that's interesting. And then what about Nvidia?
You know, I think at that point, if you're trading Nvidia with some specific lens, I think you might as well just short the NASDAQ in general for the rest of these.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You think shorting Apple is the same as shorting Nvidia?
I'm just saying these things will go down if there's a macro correction. That's my main.
Dude, Apple has majority of its balance sheet in cash.
I
mean,
so
Nvidia has
Nvidia macro NASDAQ that never gets a correction.
Of course it does, but the thing is, though, Nvidia has run up 14 times. Apple's stock is valued a bit more reasonably, and I understand the fundamentals outlook of the two companies a little different. But you know, you kind of weigh those things, and if you have any, like, if you're only active manager, you got to pick sides. You can't be just doing shorting the entire Nasdaq. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. But let's hear what ACDC has to say on that.
On your short positions?
Yeah. So, what do you think about? So, Machine said, if you're going to short Nvidia, you might as well just short the entire Nasdaq because you know it's such a large part of it.
Well, I pretty much agree with you in terms of just the overall market being really frothy. So I've never been in a bigger cash allocation than I am right now for myself and my clients. So either one is right, but if you're looking to make the most gains out of your short positions, I mean, I totally think, I mean, of course, yeah, MicroStrategy could go up higher from here. That's how crazy this market is. But if you're not too leveraged on your short, then I think MicroStrategy is definitely a better short than NASDAQ.
All right, thank you. Wessex?
Yeah, hey, Machine. I don't know enough about MicroStrategy to understand this. Can you explain how they're leveraged?
Not exactly.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, they sell convertible bonds and buy Bitcoin with that. So convertible bonds is not straight up senior debt kind of thing, but it's still in a way leverage. And the mechanics of it is a little more complex than that. I don't know 100% to be honest with you, but that's one thing I'm looking into next before I decide to double down on it. But it is a fact, Wessex, that the market cap is 3 times their Bitcoin holdings. So in that way, there's no doubt that this is a leverage play. ACDC?
So I know you had the guy who was on yesterday sitting in a pub in Amsterdam, sipping his beers, licking his losses, but he wasn't concerned
Yes.
about it yesterday. And I can't tell you.
Were you in anonymous mode? I did not see yesterday.
No, I forget. Sometimes I log into this. Sometimes I log into YouTube. In YouTube, since it's my personal account, I do log into incognito mode. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was kind of interesting conversation yesterday. He said that he was, knowledgeable about MSTR, and he's been investing for a while. He's made a lot of money, etc. He's got call options, etc. And guy comes up and he actually said by his own image, he's like a few cocktails in, and he's talking about call options on the stock of a company that is 3 times leverage of Bitcoin. And I think that's the kind of thing that leads to 15% up pre-market and then down 16% for a 30% swing throughout the day. Like that's what's happening right now in MicroStrategy,
Well, the funniest thing was when you asked him a few questions, I think he admitted it himself. He said, perhaps I shouldn't be having these cocktails today.
Yeah, and then he pointed to 2 YouTube channels that I took down in my notes and I'm going to watch as I learn more about MicroStrategy. Hustletown. Yeah.
I just know it's been a little bit crazy talking about FSD. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they're still responsible for their vehicles, and if there's anything that's happening, make sure you take over. I personally have had wonderful drives with full self-driving, but please make sure that you're responsible. Like, just be safe as much as you possibly can. That's all I really wanted to say.
ACDC?
Yeah, so that was one of the questions I think was asked around what do you do with the nags or the timeouts that you could possibly get. So that's part of my reason why I end up disengaging it or not even using it on certain trips, because I am a little engaged into whether it's my phone, and I know I shouldn't be, but sometimes you just have to toggle a little bit here and there. And including even my screen. I mean, even when my phone is not in my hands, if I have to just change a few settings on the screen, it constantly yells at you. So yes, the no nag is great, but it's not quite a practical solution for everyday driving either. So I do disengage. That's what I do. And I just drive myself when I need to be a little distracted.
Tesla fanatic.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna add stuff to that MicroStrategy stuff. Yeah, I did look into it a couple of days ago before it crashed, and it's basically like writing a call option, selling the call options, and getting the loan really cheap to buy the bitcoins. So I mean, if you look into every what is it, convertible notes offerings, it's not that significant amount comparing to current valuation of MicroStrategy, not at all. So it has no basis anywhere to get more than 1.5%, 150% of the leverage. I mean, even if we just expect it to keep bringing more capital in it, it doesn't make sense to get more than a 150x on Bitcoin gains leverage. So yeah, it's definitely good short position, I think. Yeah, I was just gonna add on that.
Thank you, ACDC.
That's exactly true. And these people who are buying it on the premise that MicroStrategy is adding more Bitcoin, it's adding Bitcoin at a price of dilution to the shareholders. And also, these current shareholders, the common shareholders, are being demoted for preference to the convertible holders. Okay, so if shit hits the fan and all of a sudden these bonds have to be paid out, or there's an event, those people will be paid off before these people will, with whatever Bitcoin is left and whatever value it's at.
Exactly. All right. Tech Greg, let's go back to you. So you said you didn't understand why someone would short Tesla right now because you believe company's long term is very bright. So my question to you is, how would you allocate your value estimate between Tesla Automotive, Tesla Energy, and everything else?
No, I think you misunderstood what I said. What I meant was, why would anybody get mad at you for shorting Tesla for a short-term
Oh,
trade?
okay. Yeah.
Because the stock's up 100 points since the election. I mean, it's a natural short right now, at least for somewhat of a gain. But I do think that Tesla has to really increase their sales over a short period of time to reach the valuation they're trading at now. It's trading at a ridiculous valuation. But, this stock trades on emotion, so you can't just put technical analysis or fundamentals on this stock in order to get its valuation, because it trades on people's emotions, and you just have to figure out what that emotion is at the moment in order to profit off it, I think.
Exactly. Okay, great. Any other questions, comments on Tesla, Nvidia, MicroStrategy? I also shorted Ford, GM, and because I do think that we're going to go into a recession, and I think those are the companies that are going to go down first. I also have a short-term Rivian too, by the way, and Palantir. So they're varying sizes. They're not all the same size. All right. Tech Greg?
Yeah, I wanted to say something quick on MicroStrategy. There's a great podcast with Patrick Brett David a few days ago, last week, with Michael Saylor, and he really explains the way he raises money, the way he gets money at 0% interest to invest in Bitcoin, and all the billions that he's raising in order to purchase it. It's still crazy that it trades at 3 times valuation. I get it. But to hear him really explain it, he takes 2 hours and he really goes into detail. So if you're in your research, I suggest going to that podcast. I think you'll get a lot out of it.
What's the name of the podcast?
Patrick, PBD, Patrick Brett David.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I listened to the whole thing, and it's fascinating.
PBD on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, PBD, Patrick Brett
Okay.
David. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll be sure to listen.
And by the way, Bitcoin just crossed an all-time high, 99,700. Just
Nice.
crossed it. 100's right around the corner.
Okay, are you a Bitcoin investor?
I bought 1 Bitcoin in 2014 for $398, and I still own it.
Okay, and do you have any MicroStrategy?
No, I mean, I'm the type of investor that can buy Bitcoin. I'd rather buy the underlying asset. I'm not a hedge fund with a charter that, needs to gain exposure to Bitcoin through an ETF or a different vehicle. So I'd rather just buy it. I'm almost in your camp to short it.
With respect to that podcast, Yemen, the one that MicroStrategy was on, Michael Saylor. I've listened to thousands of hours of Michael Saylor, and that was the first. Patrick was asking him about Scottie Pippen's comments about who is Satoshi, and Michael Saylor doesn't appear to be a good liar, in my opinion. And I'm a huge Bitcoin fan, but in my opinion, both Michael Saylor and Scottie Pippen know who Satoshi is, which makes me somewhat uncomfortable.
Okay.
I would
Let me
watch
ask you
that
something.
video.
Mm-hmm. Are you a MicroStrategy investor?
I bought MicroStrategy probably around January at about $100, and I sold it at about $350. So I've left a lot on the table. That said, I was quite concerned when I watched that Michael Saylor podcast with Patrick Bett. He just simply is a bad liar, and he kept being questioned. Do you know who Satoshi is? And
I don't
Michael
care. I don't
Saylor
care.
would not answer the question.
Thank you. I don't care about who Satoshi is. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions, comments about any other positions? Okay. ACDC, which one do you think I should close? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my question was going to be, why did you choose to short Ford over GM?
But I shorted both.
Oh, you shorted both. Okay.
Yeah. GM is the larger position because GM, I think, ran up 100%, more than 100% in the last few months. So I don't see why that should happen. I think Ford and GM are very similar companies. I think they are not much different for them. And they have this very similar risks, very similar product lines, slightly different. I think Ford is a bit more trucks and GM is a bit more SUVs. They're, I think, a similar position when it comes to autonomous driving, EVs. So yeah, I don't see why GM should have gone up so much while Ford is struggling. They have the same labor union issues. GM today is about $64 billion equity, and Ford is about $45 billion equity. In the last year, Ford went up 10%, GM went up 108%. So can you explain why that is?
No, I can't. I stopped following both of them. I bought Ford last time when it was around. It had dipped down to like $12, $13. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, I have to say. It ran up to 20, past 20. I sold out of it. I've looked at it in the 15, 16, and kept looking at it. But in this macro situation or conditions, I would never buy it. So
Yeah. I think GM management slightly better than Ford management, slightly, but not justifying this kind of difference in returns in the last year. Okay, so Tesla fanatic and Joey.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it. I mean, as a Tesla investor, I look into chart every day. I mean, and I don't know your time frame on your short position, but I just think there's much higher chance of going up another leg due to possibly FSC regulation on Europe, China, and Q4 delivery. I mean, and just technical chart wise, it's not really not a good place to short, in my opinion. So I have to put it out there. So
Well,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, if the stock, like, let's say, for example, it went up, where do you think it would go up? Let's say in the next year.
I just see it going up near around at least to 400 before the year close. I'm not sure if it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna breach 414, but I think it has another leg up, in my opinion. So I was just curious.
And if it does that, I would increase my short position, unless if there's a material change in the fundamentals. Like, for example, as Lucia pointed out in previous spaces, if V13 comes and there's a very significant increase in miles per critical intervention, and Miss Julianne goes onto her channel and posts videos about how much she loves Elon, then I would consider covering my short. How about that?
Okay.
All right, Joey.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know you follow macro very closely. What's your analysis of just like the money supply growing and then the Bitcoin halving cycles? Have you looked into the Bitcoin halving cycles at all?
I haven't looked into Bitcoin halving cycles other than maybe a couple of 1-hour conversations in person with people who are Bitcoin maximalists. But on macro, what's my outlook on macro?
Yeah. The money supply has been
money
gradually
supply.
building up now.
Yeah. I mean, I think so money supply is a bunch of is a function of a bunch of different things, but the Federal Reserve policy today is restrictive policy. Okay, and we see this with inflation numbers declining. We see it with unemployment numbers, over the last year going up. Initial weekly claims for unemployment benefits have declined a bit, but continuing claims for unemployment benefits have continued to increase. So in my opinion, the employment market is getting weaker, not stronger. And as Ford, GM, and automotive supply chain starts laying people off in the coming year or two, I think it's going to continue to get weaker. And yeah, I mean, I have a negative view on macro. Go ahead.
Do you expect in Tesla's Q4 earnings anything about a Bitcoin gain being recognized?
No, I don't really care. It's not part of the operational, like a one-time gain loss doesn't really matter that much.
Okay, but you wouldn't disagree that they'll probably have like in between 500 million to $1 billion
I don't know.
gain?
I know they would have to sell it. Do we know they sold it?
No, the accounting standard changed.
Oh, okay. I mean that's non-cash anyway, and it's non-operational. It's not even in my radar. Luce?
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate on the fact that people think there is another leg up for Tesla. So let's say there is another leg up. In what way the next quarter could be positive for the stock price? Even if they sell more, it's such overvalued that even if they are able to sell more, like 510,000 cars, will still not reflect in the valuation itself. So I really don't see why people are scared that the next quarter will be such a positive for the valuation.
Hey, Wessex?
Yeah, I would just address that by saying the valuation.
Can you guys hear Wessex?
No.
No.
Okay, Wessex, you broke off?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm saying that the valuation has nothing to do with units sold.
Okay. There you go. Luce. I think the margin matters too, though, right? Wessex, like for example, if Q4 margins came in at 15% versus 20%, then that would cause a swing in the stock, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we just saw that in the last quarter.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Where do you think margins are going to come in Q4?
I think a lot has to do with the FSD take rate. I think they've done a great job of shrinking COGS, but they have so many different promotions this quarter. It's really hard to tell. So if you're talking about gross margin on a per unit basis, I don't know. I don't think it's really going to change much. If you're talking about overall gross margin, I think because the volume is going to increase to potentially the highest ever, I think we're going to have a pretty nice quarter.
Well, Tesla fan, the James says that it's going to go down.
The margin percentage per unit?
Yeah. And by the way, when I say margin, it's always percentage. If I want to refer to the absolute amount, that's, I say, gross profit or operating profit or net profit. If it's margin, it's always a percentage of revenue.
And not in the world I've lived in. Margin, your total margin is one measure. Your margin percentage is another. But
Okay,
I was saying it for the audience, though.
Okay. Luce?
Yeah, so for what I've seen, the ASP price of the cars, of the vehicles, are pretty much the same. They are like making new incentives, like they are making new promotions for the 0% down payment, And so unless they reduce the cost of production, I think the margin will go down. So Wes, do you believe they reduce the COGS?
Yeah, I mean, that's what True to a T also says in live chat as well. Material and battery costs are down. And if you've already joined our Rivian earnings watch party, Rivian management also said that in Q4, they expect raw material benefits to continue to trickle into the income statement. So I would expect that to be the case for Tesla as well. I think COGS will continue to decline in Q4 as well, maybe not to the same extent in Q3, but Tesla is also ramping Cybertruck production. So as that ramps, you're going to see COGS come down as well. And yeah, I mean, these are all expected. Joey, did you have another question?
No, I mean, I'm kind of just listening, and then I mean, obviously, you would agree the Tesla cat has been bearish for a long time, right?
Yeah, James Cat has I don't know. I mean, I think recently he's been bullish. So
yeah, I don't know. He's just always kind of posted content of the drawdown and how it keeps hitting resistance, but then hasn't showed that it's broke out. So
okay. All right. ACDC, are you in the stock? Are you neutral? Are you short? What's your kind of position?
I'm not on it. I've traded it 3 different times, and the last time was when I bought it at 180 and got out a little early. Got out like at 320 or so, but I just think it's disconnected from a lot of real, I mean, most valuation metrics. So I'm not in it right now, and I'm actually not even following it that closely in terms of the stock itself.
What made you come to the space today?
Like I said, with my opening statement, that just wanted to commend you for being a value analyst again.
All right, thank you. Let me ask you something. So you said you bought at 180 and you closed it out in the low 300s, which is, congratulations on a great trade. What would lead you to buy this stock again? Maybe if you can describe the situation that would lead you to buy the stock again. And then the second part of that question is, what would make you short the stock?
I'll answer the second part of the question. I usually don't ever short stocks. The only time and I'll do this only personally for myself and never for clients, is take inverse positions through ETFs straight on indexes when I think the market is too high. And I'm not even doing that right now because I think the market is just so crazy that it could even go higher. So, and then to your first part, you said what would make me buy it again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the valuation would have to come down. So meaning basically the stock price would have to come to some sort of reality. Okay. Or there has to be just some sort of just immense improvement in FSD that all of a sudden I see, like whether V13 comes out and it's like, wow, we're 99.99% there now. And in 6 months, we're going to get approvals. And in 9 months, we're going to see these taxis on the road. Then maybe you can start figuring in, okay, to the bottom line in the next 1 year, 1.5, 2 years, what kind of revenue is going to be added. So that would be my only scenario to purchase it.
Yeah. Luce, do you agree with that? If V13 came up and you're at 99.9% reliability?
Yeah, I agree, but I really don't see it happening. Also, I wanted to say that it's incredible that in the last few days, it seems that the opinion is way more aligned than before in this space regarding Tesla. Because this strategy is exactly what I think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have a pretty balanced board right now. we have Tesla Fanatic, West Hicks, Hustle Town on the long side. Luce is neutral. ACDC is neutral. I'm slightly short. And Tech Greg, I think, is a bull as well. And Learn Code is a bull as well. So yeah, I mean, still more of a bullish tilt to the speaker board, but I think the discussions are more balanced. ACDC and then Tesla Fanatic.
I completely agree, and that's why I'm participating in it. I felt it had gone off on so far on the other end that you couldn't really have any negative feedback on anything, whether it was FSD, whether it was stock, whether it was anything negative, and that's not good for anybody. I mean, we need to be able to share positive and negative feedback. I think most of us, I mean, you're bullish on Tesla's long-term future. I am. I own one. I bought FSD. I want to buy the stock. And I think most people are here, but I think having a balanced and realistic approach is the best way to go.
Thank you. Tesla Fanatic?
Yeah, I was having some thoughts after hearing when you guys will buy back the stock. So I mean, one thing I noticed about the stock is that it goes up for weird reasons. I mean, it goes on FOMO for something that you didn't really expect it. And oftentimes when the fundamental changes and it does barely move. So I mean, you guys gonna have to really have either have a pretty good opportunity or good luck to find that nick of chance to buy back in, or have a recession, or have a very high interest rate environment so that Tesla is gonna tank again, and valuation makes sense more. So yeah, I still think you might have a good place to buy back again, and I do think you guys will not have a good chance to buy back again. I mean, that chance is still there. So I just wanted to get that out there. I mean, as a value investor, and that's always the case, I guess. But yeah, that's my thought.
All right. Any other questions, comments? I think that's probably a good place to end it here. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Tech Greg, go ahead.
Let's make a quick closing comment. The FSD conversation was much more balanced today. And, I just got a new Model 3 with Hardware 4 in September. And I would hear Omar tell me about these multi-hour long intervention drives. And I'm like, how am I not even getting close to that? I agree it's getting better. I use FSD every day and it's great. But this is a much more balanced conversation. And I think today's space was the best you've had in quite a while. So good stuff.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is a great place to end it now. Thank you, everybody who joined. I'm going to create a video that lists out some of the reasons why I believe Tesla's price is higher than the intrinsic value today. Okay, and I'm going to publish it because I get that question often, and then we can talk more after that. All right, thank you very much, and I will chat with you all next time. Take care.